My father was Joseph Graff. However, when he came to this country, his name was Joseph Grakope, Grakope. But with the immigration at Ellis Island, they changed his name. And they gave him options, but he found his name actually on the corner of Polk and Paulina in Chicago. And it said Albert Graff. Now, being 11 years old from a village, he said anybody who was important enough to build the sidewalks of Chicago, I'm going to take that name. So my father became Joseph Albert Graff. That's how my name came across. My father, on a boat, carried a Russian samovar in 1911 for God knows how long, probably weeks, I'm guessing. But he carried it. And the reason he carried it is it was his grandfather's. And his grandfather was a rabbi. So the big thing was to bring the samovar here. It's from about circa 1860. And it means everything in the world to me because it's my ancestors. And I believe in my ancestors. I don't know who Rabbi Joseph was, other than he was a rabbi, and he was my father's grandfather. And Joey's named for him. My grandparents on my father's side, I never knew. His father died in Russia when he was 5 years old, so that would have been 1905. His mother died here in the 30s, so I never had an opportunity to know her. My mother's parents, who came from Russia in 1903 and 1904, Harry Bloom and Molly Bloom, came here, and they were the ultimate success. My grandfather was a tailor. He ended up owning 3 custom men's stores with my grandma helping him. My mom was born in the back of one of the stores in 1912. So my history in America is very typical of the immigrants of that era. My grandfather did unusual things. He made a lot of money prior to the Depression. He went back to the village he came from. He brought 48 people at his expense. This was in Russia, Poland, right on the border. It was about 75 kilometers from Białystok. It was about 1918 or 1920. He had to guarantee jobs and housing and everything. That the government had a whole list. My grandfather said, everybody will have food, everybody will have a job. He was a pretty cool guy. From Białystok, nothing left. The Nazis killed every single living person and then destroyed every church and synagogue. My mom loved to dance, and she and my father had a great time together. They were married 25 years when my father died of cancer. But he loved my mother, and we as kids could see that. And if you ask my sister Barbara Dorfman, she would give you the same response. Family is close. I cannot imagine life without my sister. My father died in 1958. I joined DMLA in 1959 at my mother's urging. It proceeded to change my life on a daily basis. It delivered for me a good life with high expectations that we had to meet. I am extremely proud of being a 33rd degree Scottish Rite Mason. It has added a great amount of prestige. I am the first honorary past Grand Master in Illinois, but I've just spent 12 years as Grand Chancellor. So my involvement isn't a lapel pin. DMLA taught me that you must be physically involved and emotionally involved if you in fact want to grow and add to your society. And why I see the importance of bringing this to Europe and the world. But we have to work on the future, and DMLA is the future for Freemasonry. I grew up in Skokie, Illinois, and it's a suburb of Chicago. And I went to high school there, as did my sister Barbara, and we had a great experience, and that's where I joined DMLA. It just walked hand in hand. But another experience that came out of DMLA / Freemasonry is I was visiting a friend who was sick in Mount Sinai Hospital in Chicago. And I saw this cute nurse. So having no willpower, I of course went and made a pass at her. She saw I was wearing my dad's Masonic ring, asked me if I was a Mason. I said yes, and she said her dad was past master of 2 lodges in the Philippines. So we now had a common connection, and I took her to lunch, but I didn't know the Filipino custom of a chaperone. By the time I fed the 2 girls, I was broke. If I didn't borrow money from my mom, I was in big trouble. My wife is from the Philippines, and when I wanted to marry her, I wasn't able to because the law required she return to the Philippines for 2 years. If I had married her, it would have been easy, but I was terrified of getting married. And the result being that I waited. We waited about 1.5 years. We got married in Windsor, Ontario, and we've had this very good life together. And it's been an interesting life. We're married almost 50 years. And to stay married 50 years in a modern society is almost impossible. And we have a son and a daughter. Our son is a graduate of DePaul University, but he also lived in Europe and taught for 2 years in Vienna and did his master's at Leuven in Belgium. My daughter did both her undergrad and grad here in Chicago and teaches children. I have 2 granddaughters. I have the oldest, Mia Grace, and I smile because she's the oldest, so I've had time with her. And now there's a baby. My second granddaughter's name is Riley. My daughter lives in Skokie. My son lives with his partner in the South Loop, and everybody seems to be happy. I'm grateful that I had good parents. I have a great sister, and I have a good marriage. So I was very lucky. It's mind-boggling. My life will be limited just by years, but my work can go on indefinitely.